who alerted us to this. Kant was the first who said that it's possible that one day we can have a full account of what it is to be a human being, we can have a full account of what determines human behavior, but I, as an acting agent, whether I believe that my actions are fully determined or not, as an acting agent, I could not act if I did not believe that I'm free. So even theoretically I may not be free, but as an agent, as an active agent, I have to assume that I'm free. Now, this I think is the thin edge of the wedge into against the argument of full naturalism, and I think this kind of argument also raises serious doubt about the possibility of having a full account of what human agency is in purely naturalistic, scientific terms. This is Taylor's position, and I tend to agree with that position too. Now, when things get a little bit difficult with Taylor's account, is when he examines what he calls our modernity, or the so-called immanent frame. Immanent being that we can account for nature in terms of nature. And his explanation of the decline of religion has to do with the massive plausibility of this immanent frame, the power this immanent frame has over our thinking, our view of the world. But he believes that within this immanent frame, we can distinguish between those individuals who choose to remain closed into this realm of immanence, and those individuals for whom one or another kind of appeal to some form of transcendence is required. So he defines religion then, as some sort of an appeal that is felt necessary to appeal to some kind of something transcendent, something that transcends our lived experience. Now, you see, sometimes I think of the new atheists, the four horsemen of the apocalypse, as those individuals who crash through open doors, you know, who really are arguing against straw men, because no one really among serious Christian theologians accepts the worldview that they attack, and that worldview is what I would call, after Heidegger, the onto-theological worldview. In other words, none of these Christians think of transcendence as some transcendent being out there that has an existence in and of itself. This is a very interesting point, and it reflects another aspect of Taylor's philosophical background, which is his Hegelianism. Hegel very famously criticized those conceptions of infinite God that saw the infinite and God as totally separate from the finite world. And his argument, Hegel's argument, was very simple. If the infinite is totally other than the finite, then the infinite cannot be infinite, because then it be limited by the finite. That is not of it. That is not part of it. So when Taylor talks about transcendence, what he means by transcendence is not some being out there over and above the world of immanence, but what is transcendently real is what is required by our best explanation of our lived experience. So it's very much centered on lived experience and not on abstract beliefs. And our lived experience is that which is socially determined. It is determined by our education. It is determined by the encounters we have in our lives. So all the arguments that were so popular when I was a student and may still be popular in schools for the existence of God, Taylor thinks they're really a joke. And that conception of God and that conception of Christianity is woefully inadequate and woefully outdated. Now I want to then spend a little time about Taylor's argument against what I call the old atheists. Because there were atheists before Dennett, Dawkins, Harrison, Hitchens. Among them was Nietzsche, and some people think that among them was Spinoza. And some people even think that among them was Hegel. So the question then I want to raise is what is Taylor's criticism of these old atheists? The general label, if you want, that he gives to his adversaries is that they are committed to what he calls the subtraction story. The subtraction story, and of course this relates to what I just said, the subtraction story is a story about human beings such that if you really take a close look at human beings, they are fundamentally rational, healthy, rational beings. Of course, their mind was perverted, polluted by all this religion, and now through science and more enlightened thinking, we can subtract all this added-on pollution, and we stand with a pure, natural human being who really doesn't need faith, doesn't need to fear, doesn't need to hope. It just inhabits his world quite peacefully, comfortably. And I think that, well, first of all, let me just say that one interesting fact about Taylor's criticism of atheism is that while he thinks that the new atheists are somewhat smug, somewhat arrogant, somewhat superficial, people who crash through open doors, he takes Nietzsche and the kind of atheism that Nietzsche represents very seriously, and he says that if Nietzsche's position were tenable, then indeed Christian faith would be in serious trouble. Because the Nietzschean view, expressed by Nietzsche, and I think by a number of more recent thinkers, such as Albert Camus, and Taylor spent some time discussing the position of Albert Camus. Their position is that human existence is absurd. Human existence is absurd, and I'd like you to see if there are echoes of this in the New Atheist. Human existence is absurd because human beings are inevitably value-seeking, meaning-seeking beings, but they are confronted with a silent world that doesn't really give a hoot about them. And the absurdity the absurdity of human existence is that we seek for a meaning that is entirely close to us in this silent, hostile universe. Now, the response of Nietzscheans, and certainly this was the response of Camus, is a heroic stand in the face of this absurdity. And the heroic individual is the one that makes it a question of honor to respect life that really does not give us ultimate meaning, to respect our search for meaning, to respect our search for a better life, all along knowing that we cannot get it. And Camus' position here is a little bit different from Nietzsche's, because Camus believes in the value of human flourishing. These are again terms Taylor uses. Human flourishing means Camus believes that we should strive for a good life. We should strive for improving our lives. But for Camus, and this was his main disagreement with Sartre, all we can hope for is periodic, episodic victories. We can perhaps cooperate with others to gain some small piecemeal victories. But what we cannot have is this global narrative, the communist narrative of Sartre. This is what separated, which is what divided Camus from Sartre. Some global meaning. We can never have that. Now, I think that this is close to my position, basically, this Nietzschean, Camusian position. As far as Taylor's specific discussion of Nietzsche and Camus go, I'm not entirely satisfied with it.